Welcome, Regina, Saskatchewan. We are joined by Mr. Victor, legendary, I'm going to call you legendary. It's Black History Month. Today you're legendary. It is well. Odogu, a registered nurse and founder and CEO of Afro Tribes, a thriving non-profit community organization offering programs for children, seniors, and families across Regina. So, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna get straight to the chase. Now, in an interview with CKRM, you stated that you and your wife, Miss Amarachi, started Afro Tribes to meet a very practical need. You couldn't find a summer care program for your son and realized that many other families faced the same challenge. Now, were there any specific cultural qualities that other summer camps were lacking, or could you simply not find any at all for your child?
No, there were summer camps, but getting them was a problem, right? And then when it also comes to culture, right, it's important that you have a culturally safe place. You know, moving to a new country, there are things you look out for, right? So you also want to be in a culturally safe environment. And because at the time, there were few immigrants compared to what we have now. So during the summer, we tried to find a place where he could fit in, right? But there was none. And then that was how we went about starting one to ensure that the kids get that cultural continuity. I mean, with school, they learn everything. But it's parents are desirous, especially parents from our community are desirous to have a place where the kids can learn about their history, about their hometown, and their cultural skills. You don't want them to forget, cultural songs. You don't want them to forget how to dance. You're right? So that's very important. Yeah. You also want a place where they can play cultural, like the kind of play we play in our community. Yeah. So that was very important for us because it's summer. Everyone wants to have fun.
And be outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very, very interesting. All right. So now most people would argue that a man with your level of education and your wife Amarachi, who works in computer sciences, both of you have education and experience and you already have enough on your plates. Starting Afro Tribe wasn't just for your son's benefit, but also for that of the community. Why is community so important to you, especially as an immigrant?
Community is everything. Community is safety. Community is health, right? And in Africa, we thrive on community. We have a communal living, and there is this proverb in Africa that when you have a broomstick, you can easily break it. But when you have a bunch of broom, you can't break it. And that has followed me, growing up, watching, traveling to the village with my parents. I learned how to swim in the village. My father would take us to the village, and that's how I learned to swim with my peers, and they were like, oh, we love you because you don't even behave. You don't have the air of, the city kids. You're amongst us and you do everything we do. And, growing up, saying that when I arrived here, and, it can be very isolating. The Western culture is isolating. People are more individualistic, right? But the only way to survive here is going through that communal life and living it. So that was why starting Afro Tribes was quite very important to us to ensure that we have that communal safety and we have our people around us at all times.
Beautiful. Thank you. So for the viewers at home, could you please tell us a bit about what Afro Tribe is and what all the programs you have?
Okay, yeah. So Afro Tribes is a non-profit, and we started out in Regina, which I started with Amarachi, my wife, and we are focused on social health, cultural continuity, youth engagement, youth empowerment, women empowerment, and social justice. And through this vehicle, through this platform, we have the Afro Tribes Kids Summer Camp, we have the High Life Seniors Day program. We have Love Jazz, which is our Black History Month and Love Celebration. We also have the Afro Tribes Festival, okay, which is also like a festival for arts and music. And then we also are partnering with the government of Saskatchewan for a suicide prevention campaign that will be starting off soon. So yeah, with Afro Tribes, with what we are focused on, so is ensuring that the community is healthy, ensuring that not just being financially healthy, but socially you're healthy, mentally you're healthy, and also engaging our youths. I mean, youths, it's everything. If you get the youths engaged, you have less social vices, right? If you empower the women, they have less stress on the family, right? And all our programs, span across the life spectrum from youth to seniors. And seniors are very important because someday we're going to become old. So if we don't set up platforms that will also take care of us when we get old, then it becomes a problem. You can imagine how isolating it is now, right? Then go visit the seniors' home and see those that thrive are those who live in seniors' home that feels like a community. It's an industry I work in healthcare. So you see those that thrive are those that live in seniors, homes where it feels like a community where they thrive. But those places where it's all individualistic, they don't.
It feels
really
like a hotel.
good.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Not even a hotel. A hotel might look better, but it feels more like a prison.
Got you. Right, so after satisfying the need for summer camps for children, what prompted you to venture into music and creating an entire music festival?
Again, representation is important, community is important. There was nothing. I'm coming from Owerri, I'm coming from Lagos, I'm coming from Ibadan. These are all cultural, places. Where my hometown, we have lots of festivals, the Okaziemi, the Ogos of Owerri. So, these are very huge festivals. They talk of Lagos, there are so many festivals in Lagos, right? Right now, they also have the Dirty December. So, there is a whole lot of things happening, right? Then you think of Ibadan, which is a huge, cultural and arts place, right? So, coming from there to Regina is oh my goodness. So, and I'm a builder. I believe in building. I don't believe in waiting for the next guy to do, because the next guy might not do it. And we all keep complaining, oh, there's nothing to do in Regina. I got tired of people say, hey, I'm leaving Regina, there's nothing to do. Right? I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's roll up our sleeves and build something.
Yeah.
So, and my hope is that, we build something that outlasts us, so that, people like you can continue and hand it over and, go from there.
Beautiful. Now, organizing events can be challenging, especially when you're starting something new or in rare form. In the early days, what obstacles did you face in trying to put the festival together?
Funding.
Talk about
it. Funding. Our first festival, we actually self-funded it. And that put us behind almost $70,000. It turned out great. We had an international act. It was wonderful. People came out. Well, however, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of personal investment into ensuring that happened. And most of the time, like with everything in the world, you don't have so many people believing in you. Because we reached out wide to see if we could get the funding, but then it's like, oh, you have to do something for us to see your capacity. You have to do something for us to trust you that,
you need to prove your worth.
You need to prove that you can do it. So, yeah, and that's what we did with that.
All right, so I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. Why do you feel it's important to preserve African culture, especially since your child will be growing up away from home? And also just considering, not to go too deep into other things, but just bearing in mind how the history of Black and African people has historically either been erased or whitewashed or is under attack, and some books aren't allowed in schools for whatever reason. Why do you feel it's important to preserve our culture?
Culture, as you know, is the people's way of life, right? So when you erase a person's culture, he becomes a different person. There are so many beautiful things about the African culture. One, communal living. One, the way we interact with each other, right? So I want to uphold that. I want to continue seeing that happen, because in a place like this where the winters are bitter cold, you need something. You shouldn't be afraid to call up your friend and say, hey, what are you doing? Come, I have a plate of pepper soup. Let's share. Right? You shouldn't be afraid to say, hey, I made this, let's share. Right? Than just staying in your house. I've lived here 8 years now, and I've had like 2 neighbors who died in their houses, right? And nobody knew after a period. So that's disheartening. When I first moved here and was renting, we saw that. So, but in Africa, it's hard for such a thing to happen, because people will visit you regularly.
Yeah.
Visit you regularly. So, and it's important that we preserve the culture, because we want future generations to know that there is an other side of life that is beautiful, that is more cohesive. And I want that to be upheld.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that, because I vividly, I'm a bit younger than you, but the country I come from is called eSwatini, formerly Swaziland, and I remember in our neighborhood we knew everyone on our street, all the way to the very, very end. I knew everyone by name. I knew all the neighbors' kids. You could knock on someone's door and go ask for salt or sugar, and then once I've baked my thing, I'll give you some. So I remember that. And I'm also thinking, in the foreseeable future, not now, because kids are expensive. But when I eventually have kids, what's on my mind is, okay, how am I going to introduce them to Swati culture when I'm the only one here who even speaks my language to begin with? So beautiful points you're making there. Now, I have a very interesting question, because of all of our guests here, you're the only one who's of an elder generation. And since we're talking about music and artistry, what would you say to other African parents who have children who want to become artists? Because understandably, and I can speak from experience, when you tell your parents that you want to pursue something in the arts, oftentimes the reaction is one rooted in fear. Obviously, because the arts generally are fulfilling and lovely and amazing, but also the road is very sometimes unstable, inconsistent. You don't know when your income is coming from, blah, 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 blah. But when you know that you want it, oftentimes it tends to be difficult trying to convince your parents to believe in you or to see in you. So what would you say to parents who are currently in that situation where their kid wants to become an artist? And what would you say to children?
Okay. One thing that inspires me to pursue, the arts and culture, and to create the platforms I'm creating, especially for youth empowerment, is when I look at the African American community. Okay, so historically they got there because their great grandparents were moved as slaves to the Americas. Okay, but what have sustained them is their culture. And that's what has translated into how they perform in athletics, how they perform in music, how they perform in other creative ventures, right? In film, in writing, and just because of that culture. And fortunately, the American society also encouraged the arts. So in Canada, what Canada have done with their immigration is to select the educated from, Africa, from Nigeria. Like, I came here with a master's in business. My wife came here to do a master's. So they are not saying, hey, are you a musician? Come over. Like, I've looked at all the notes. I've not seen anything like that. Why the US system, lets everyone come in.
Yeah.
So with the kind of platforms we are creating platforms where kids can see someone playing music and they're inspired and they can say, hey, maybe I could become a musician, right? Maybe I could become a writer. Maybe I could become an actor. So in our summer camp, we have performative activities. At the end of the summer program, we have a performing activity that they do, right? So that's also helping them. Now, the reason is this, because not all of us will be doctors. Not all of us will be lawyers and engineers, right? So you need to inspire the kids who want to do music. You need to show them something to say, hey, I can be like him. And my son likes music. Because we listen to all kinds of music at home. And when it was time for him to join musical industry, he said, I want to play jazz. I said, oh, that's great. And one day he told me, oh, I wrote a song. I'm like, oh, can I hear it? And he sang it to me. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. And this is what I told him. I said, if you would like to take music as a career, that's awesome. I will support you. But you need to fight for it. So he said, what do you mean? I said, yes, because music has, the arts can be challenging. Just like what you said, you might not be sure of the income and there is a whole lot to deal with it. Fame, some people don't know how to deal with fame and all that comes with it, right? But I told him a story of Davido. Davido is one of the top Nigerian exports. Now, Davido comes from a wealthy family, but he fought to be where he is. His parents didn't just say, hey, take this money, go do music. No, he had to fight through a difficult maze, right, to become the star he is today. So I shared that story with him. I said, so, hey, we will support you. We'll provide all the music education. Like, we'll provide him with music education, everything he needs to get all the support he needs. But he needs to do the extra work to prove that, yes, I want this badly, and this is what I want to do. So, yeah, so for the kids at home, yes, you can do anything, but then remember, you need to fight for it. You need to need it so badly that your parents will believe that, yes. Because, I mean, there are so many stars out of Nigeria now, like Burna Boy, Wizkid. So when you also look at what they are doing, you know that that's good income. There is a good life to it. It's not structured like, getting an education and doing a 9-to-5 job. It's more like you have to work hard for it.
That's a beautiful answer. I will also say that as an artist myself, I'm an actor, I'm not a musician. Not yet, we'll see. No one knows. But my parents, like most parents, I had to do a PowerPoint presentation. I convinced them, and even still, when I left the country, I don't think they were convinced. They just bought a ticket and said, okay, go, we'll see. But I had my first one-man show last year in Saskatchewan, written by Peace Akintade, a Nigerian poet laureate of the country.
Yeah, I know her.
And with that play, I got my at the end of it, I got my first acting nomination for anything in life. Never seen nomination in my life. And it's now that my parents are seeing that, okay, something is happening. Now, I mean, I always had their support, but now it feels like they are rooting for me. But yes, that you're right about the work of it having to happen. Because even just moving here as an international student by myself and then starting from scratch and getting an ID and a license and a job and a this and a that and a that. Anywho, I don't want to keep you here too long, but I'm curious to know, what can we expect from Afro Tribe this year and the years to come? And also, how can people connect?
Yes, thank you. This year, we just had Love Jazz. It was a sold-out event. And during Love Jazz, we raised awareness on youth mental health. So that was a great event. We are also looking forward to the Afro Tribes Festival in August. So we've applied for grants and we're looking for sponsors and support. Yeah, we're asking people to come volunteer. We've made artist calls, vendors. So we're asking the community to come support and make this one more outstanding than the previous ones we've had. So you can connect with us through our website. You can send us an email. You can also call us. All our contacts are on our website or through our social media. So we're looking forward to it. And the Seniors Day program will be happening again this year in October. So we're looking forward to that. And you come hang out with the seniors. Come, play cards with them, play games with them, and, partake in activities with them. Like I said, we're going to get there someday. So the platforms you're building today, it's what will also keep
your own
us.
benefit,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we get to that point.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Mr. Ejike.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
This has been Sask Music with Conversations with Artists. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Afro Tribes. Please do look them up, connect with them. We will see you again next time. Thank you.